Can I have those flowers? We're gonna stick the flowers in her hair. You look lovely. Thank you. Okay, cool. And I'm gonna have you go stand back out there. So I actually brought that, what do you call it? I knew the word before, right? The burlap, and it was just it comes in a, words again? Roll, thank you. Comes in a roll, and then you pin it in her hair, and it just adds a cool texture. So we're gonna pin a couple of those flowers in. So for this, as she does that, I'm going to show you a couple other things that I've got. We're gonna take this one first. Okay, so this one is one of my favorite little contraptions. So I brought this out, okay, a little price sheet. Okay, so I went to a place where they sell things for weddings to decorate the tables. And so these are mirrors for decorating tables, and each one was $1.99. And then I took some gaffer's tape, and I gaffer taped them together. But now, when I shoot through it, I have a prism, and it's awesome. And here's how it works. Depending on the lens I use, I'll see different types of reflections. Depending on how close to the model it is, I'll see different types of reflections. Depending on what focal length I zoom within this, I'll see different reflections. It is awesome. I shot an editorial for Zinc magazine using this. I also made a giant one of these that can fit a whole torso. That one is this one is a couple dollars, right? Inexpensive. The one that I built that fits someone's torso, I went to kind of like a glass making shop, but it's not actually glass. It was mirrored plexi. And I bought 3 2x2 pieces of mirrored plexi, and then gaffers taped them together. And so I've done beauty editorials where the whole model, midsection up is in there, and I love it. So, taping mirrors together, you can take it out on location or use it in the studio. The thing with the studio that is very challenging is you get reflections of ceiling and stuff. So it tends to work better when you're not shooting in a white space or where light's going to kick around. It works better when you're doing something that's like black on black and there's not light hitting around, so you don't have to worry about reflections of the ceiling and stuff. On location, I shot an editorial in New York City where how I angled it, I'd get reflections of the Empire State Building and then the model in a different reflection. It was awesome. It was like really fun editorial. I'm thinking it might have to be the 2470. Let me show one more. No, that's beautiful. That looks great. Okay, so here's my other little creative tool. So I have 3 of these over there that I bought on eBay for $6. And so they are chandelier crystals, and they're just cool, creative in-camera techniques, because I can use it for 2 reasons. In a backlit situation, I can put them right up against my lens, and right up against my lens, I can give myself lens flare. If it's in, end of the day, I put it up to the edge, the light kicks in, and I get kind of like the rainbow effect, and it gives a little haze, and women feel nice and dreamy with lens flare, so I always like that. But the other thing that I'll do too, especially with window light, if a subject's, I have window to the left-hand side and I'm lighting her, I'll put this in front of the camera, and it gives me a multiple image. So I see her multiple times in this shot. So I'm gonna take a quick test with this, and then we're gonna change the light. But I just wanna show you roughly what it looks like. And I'm gonna, my white balance is gonna be crazy because we're mixed light. So I'm gonna add a strobe after this. Right. Great, now head towards me just a little. Good. Let's see. And let me open up a little bit more. And I'm moving it around to get interesting. Okay. So it's just like cool and dreamy and fun. And I told you my white balance would be crazy. It's like I've got like daylight here and tungsten there. So I might just, we'll try one with auto. But anyway, as I rotate this around, I get a different effect for each. And I did an entire editorial for a magazine where it was kind of lingerie-ish, and I hung all this tulle from the background, and then she was repeated multiple times, so it was extra spicy because there's extra of her. Anyway, that's just, it's beautiful and it's dreamy, and so it's my set of $6, and you want to look up specifically teardrop chandelier crystals, because if you just search chandelier crystals or crystals, you get the round ball ones, and you can't shoot through those because it just distorts the image too much. So you're looking for something that's bigger and flatter, because that'll actually allow you to focus. And what I usually do is I pre-focus, and then I put the crystal in front, because it struggles sometimes to focus through some glass. And I use back button focus. So what that lets me do, this is in my boot camp and in my location lighting class, but just basically for back button focus, is usually you're focusing with your front trigger, okay, this front button, but with cameras by default. So you push halfway to focus, and then all the way to take the picture, right? The problem is if you're in a backlit situation or a situation like this, is I'll get my focus, and then I'll put it in front, and then it searches for focus because it's not locked. So back button focus over here is, instead of being on the trigger, it puts focus on the AF button right here. So now what I can do is I can focus using this button, and I can lock it in place. So now when I click the shutter, it's locked. I put this in front, no problem. It's not going to search for it. So if you're having trouble focusing shooting through a crystal, it's your AF button. On the 5D Mark III, it's actually set by default already to back button focus, but it depends on your camera. You can actually set your focus to be any of these, and it's in a custom function of your camera if it's not already set. But how I have it is I get the focus once till it clicks, and if I don't touch it again, it's locked in place. And when I want to focus a different time, I do it again, locked in place. So that's the AF button. So that's exactly what I'm doing here, as I'm focusing on her. Great. Okay, perfect. Nice and dreamy. So I'm going to light this real quick. Can I have the beauty dish, and I'll fix stuff here. Let's see. Any questions on that? Did back button focus work all right for you? Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah, I do have a question, Lindsay.
Sure.
Because I've used back button focus, but from what I gather, what you just said now, you don't have to hold it once
so
you lock it in, or
if you turn off the front from being focused.
Okay.
Because by default, you have your front as your trigger and your focus. If you make it so just the back button is all your focus, then you press it once and it locks it, unless you're shooting in continuous mode. If you're shooting in continuous mode, that would be, for an example, they use it in sports all the time, but the bride walking down the aisle, okay? What it's going to let you do is, if you're in continuous mode and you hold that button, it will continue to track her every step she takes, so she'll stay in focus as she moves towards you. So you can either use it to track focus or to lock it, depending on what shooting mode you're in. One shot locks it, continuous is tracking. Okay, you're welcome. Excellent. All right, so
let's keep going.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So we're just going to make this a little bit better lit. I illustrated the point. Now let's make it a little bit prettier. Okay, cool. And I got the trigger. Let's set. Now my white balance is going to go to flash, because before I got a whole bunch of mixed stuff here. I know that my Pro Photos that I'm using, which are the Pro Photo D1 Air 500 watts, that's what I'm using on this set. They are the flash white balance is what I like best for them. And just so you know, the gear that we're using as well, this is a 3x4 foot softbox in the back. Was that a Chimera one?
This is a Chimera.
Chimera? Okay, see, we all. Okay.
Chimera
The
is the
shimmer.
right
they
way.
say but Chimera. Remember?
Chimera is the goddess.
Greek god. Yeah,
Yes.
the Greek
Chimera
monster.
is the shimmery light.
Yeah, the shimmer. Yeah, that's what they said. Chimera, because it's shimmery. But I'm a nerd, remember? So like the Greek god, like that was my favorite part of freshman year. We studied that for like 6 months. I was so into it. All right, so. And then my main light that I have here is a Pro Photo 20-inch white beauty dish. If you've seen other of my classes, I go into in depth on how I use this. I love this one. And I think I'm going to light her on this side. Sorry if I'm blocking cameras and stuff. All right, now I am going to for sake of creativity, we're going away from rules. We're going away from conventions. I'm just going to guess on my exposure, and I'm going to be totally wrong, and I'm going to adjust it. But in all honesty, as long as if it's not a client job or something that needs repeatability, sometimes ignoring what it says is more freeing, because maybe, ooh, wow, that underexposed looks really moody and I love it. It's usually better to try it on purpose, but it's cool if you do it on accident too. All right, so let's see what I get here. And I don't even know if these are on the same channels, but we'll test it out. That was not me. Does that mean
I don't know what's firing it.
someone,
Oh,
is he on the same channel?
most
Is he
likely.
Okay, ready? Channel change.
Yeah, let's see.
1 second. Which channel do you want? Just
Go to
two? Two, perfect. I'm on 2. Same problem solved. Okay, so I'm gonna switch, and on my Air remotes, I can switch to channel 2 there, so no problem. Oh, that would be awesome. That would be fantastic. Okay. All right, let me just test this real quick. I'm telling you it's gonna be wrong. I know. Oh, maybe not. I'm that good. Let's see. That's pretty close. I haven't added the crystal yet, but I like it the other way. I like it really moody the other way. I want a little bit more shape to her face. Can you turn your head towards me a little? Good. I want a little more shadow because that's really flat to me. So I'm going to turn it this way. I think that looks good. Let me grab my crystal. Not tripping over stuff. Let's take a look here. Great, you doing okay? Yeah. Okay, I think you just have to stand there and, it's cool. You look beautiful. Good. All right, now I'm going to add my crystal in. And we're going to see how it works, considering I'm shooting into a light source. Oh, got ahead of myself. Hold up. Okay, so before we use this as a constant light, because I was treating it like a window, but I can use my softbox as a backlight. I do it all the time in tons of my classes, and the reason that I like it as a backlight is because it wraps around your subject. It gives you a pure white background, especially if I'm not trying to get full length. It's really a pain in the butt sometimes to get a pure white background. And so I think it's easier half the time to set up a softbox, set it behind them. And so it's a creative lighting modifier. I don't need to get multiple lights to light that background. So I'm going to use the softbox. And the more I want the light to wrap around her, I can do 2 things. I can bring her closer to it, wraps it around a little bit more, or as I turn up the power, it wraps around a little bit more. So I'm going to do something like this. And now we're going to add our crystal and see how it works. Okay, it's not bright. Let's try another one. I want a little more crystal effect. And so it's mostly with this light, mostly just giving me lens flare, but like it's pretty lens flare. But I liked the modeling light better. So I think I'm going to go with modeling light to finish off this shot because I like it better. All right, one more. Then I'm going to shoot really wide. And you have to keep the crystal up close. If it's too far out, you see the outlines, so it messes it up. Yes, I think I did. Good. And good. Perfect. Good. Okay. So each time I rotate it, it looks like something different. I need one more. I didn't like her face overlapping her face. Okay. Beautiful. Okay. Questions on crystal? $6 crystal.
Well, I think maybe while we do questions, because we can change the set and get the next model out.
Perfect.
Is that cool?
I think that's awesome. So $6 crystal. The burlap was $6 in a spool of it, but that's only a tiny part of it. And then we got one flower, which a lot of them was a few dollars. And I think we're actually done with her for right now.
Switch. Thank you so much.
No, thank you. We're going to do the 2 back barn doors.
Okay.
And this is good, but with a grid.
Okay.
Okay. So we're gonna do the black background. Do you wanna do that
Yeah, get a
together?
couple of people to help me with that.
We are doing something spicy for this one. Okay.
So I have some questions while you guys set up.
Okay,
I just
cool.
want to make sure that you
We're good.
kept moving on those.
Okay.
Okay, so this question had come in earlier from Clive Chan, who said, there seems to be a lot of things that you can do without, as we're talking about getting creative. But is a makeup artist one of those things?
Well, I'm not gonna say that because my makeup artist will hate me. No, it's totally true. I need a makeup artist for how I shoot. Like, it's not even really a question, because when I'm shooting, they're contributing creatively. Like, the way that burlap came together with the flower, if I had done it, wouldn't have looked like that. Like, it just wouldn't have. But the same thing is, it depends. I could do a lot of stuff in Photoshop, but I would rather creatively direct. So I think of it like a director. When a director's on set, they're not touching the lighting usually, and they're not actually even touching the cameras, but the whole thing's their vision. At the end, it's still their project. So when I work with a makeup artist, I'm directing my vision to them, but they always bring something extra. When you find a good team, it starts off a little challenging in the beginning because you have to direct people and deal with artists, and we artists are difficult. Then there's lots of artists on set, it's extra difficult. But every single shoot I do, I have one, unless the face is covered, which happens sometimes.
So building off that, and again, grab a mic if you guys have any questions. Similarly, how do you work in your creative vision if you're working with an art director?
Okay, so with an art director, you matter less. Because typically if there's an art director on set, if it's a client hiring you, the art director is supposed to be the translator between the photographer and the client. So to help the client get what they want, and the photographer to better execute that vision. And so usually on those sets, there's a goal, there's an objective or a sketched out of what the shoot should look like, and the creative director or the art director is trying to make sure you get there. So that is a little bit more challenging. In the past, what I usually do is give them whatever they want and then say, oh, but I have such a great idea. And I move it beyond that once they're happy with, like, they have what they want. And most of the time they go with what I liked better anyway. So it works out.
Any other questions in the audience? Yes, please, have a stand.
Hi, Lindsay.
Hi.
Love your work.
Thank you.
How do you go about, how important is it to get a stylist for these, shoots? And I know we're on a budget, but how for you is it important to?
Absolutely. So my current style, I have a stylist for everything. But when I first started off, I've said this aloud, so I guess it's okay. But I was all about the buy return. But I usually ask the places, or sometimes not. But it depended on the situation. I styled a lot of stuff myself, even though I didn't have that much style to me. Because a lot of things, even the H&Ms and things like that, have some cool, funky clothes. But if I wanted actual interesting clothing, it was the art students or the fashion design students, or I tried to hook up with whoever was at that local fashion week to see if they had any design. I've worked with a seamstress before who wanted to get funky and try something. Also for clothing, I purchased things online from all those boutiques in China that have endless things. I promise they won't look like they do in the pictures. But sometimes they're passable for a photograph. They don't look like they do in their demo photos. And then beyond that, let's see what other things I've done. Costume rentals, costume rental places, Shakespearean play. There's this place in Oregon called Oregon Shakespeare Festival. They have the most incredible gowns. I would rent from there. So I always consider clothing an important part of the process, but if you can do it yourself, you can do it yourself. But in fashion photography, you want to be in a magazine, you pretty much have to have a wardrobe stylist. You can't really do it yourself, because then you're worried about everything else. Oh yeah, and then the photos. So I recommend getting one if you're doing fashion.